is what the prophet wants me to do. Yeah, right.
Hmm. Because we literally believe the prophet talks with Jesus in a special room and like gets advice, on like, this is what I want for my church. And so so to go against your prophets and apostles is literally telling Jesus no. So
Mm.
like you don't say no. When the church says jump, I said how high and should I sing while I do it? Like that's that was me. And so this was like my life ambition. And what was frustrating is that for me, the way to deal with my attractions was exactly what the musical. I hope you're familiar with the musical,
Of
right?
course.
Like
So I've seen it
find the
several
box
times.
that's
Yeah.
gay and crush it. So because that was me on my mission, and even before, I dealt with my gay attractions by working harder, by
Hmm.
praying harder, by memorizing more scriptures. I loved knocking on doors. Every other missionary I knew, besides except for my trainer, hated knocking on doors. I loved it because I thought it was an opportunity to like let my spirit prove to them that like I'm called of God and they're going to join the church and I'm going to baptize thousands. Like I loved that opportunity. But about 6 months in to my mission, the prophet made a big announcement. He said, "If you have past sins, you may not be worthy to be here, no matter how hard you've tried. If you have certain past sins, you can't be here anymore." So I talked to my mission president and I was like, "Look, this is behind me, but I need you to know I had a boyfriend at the age of 11 and 12, da, 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 right?" And what was so beautiful to me is that he's like, "Wait, so you are dealing every single day, all day, with gay attractions, but you are more righteous and more chaste than half of the missionaries here?" Well, great. Like he applauded me.
Right.
He encouraged me. He's like, "Wow, I am so glad you're here because of that." And so a year and a half in, when I had another elder who we called Trunky, where he just cannot wait to take his trunk and go home, type of thing, he didn't want to work at all. And so my attractions were suddenly a lot harder to deal with because I couldn't work. And so I talked to my new mission president, and I was sent home 2 days later. So
Wow.
everything fell apart like in 2 days. And then I suddenly had to realize this thing that I thought was behind me, I now have to face. And so I did what the church said to do, which is conversion therapy.
And so in your particular case, conversion therapy was specifically for Mormons? So it was a
Mm-hmm.
religious-based conversion therapy program? Because I know there are other ones. I don't know if you know in
Yeah.
Florida, conversion therapy for a while was deemed to be illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And two people from Boca, which is like right down the street from me, said it was a freedom of speech issue, and it is still okay in the state of Florida to do conversion therapy, which
Yeah.
is, given all the data, it is so shocking to me.
Correct.
And that happened about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that ruling happened. It's just
I'm not
extraordinary.
I'm not surprised because it's always like a cat and mouse chase of like at Brigham Young University. I'm not sure if you knew what they did there. They were huge proponents of electroshock therapy.
No,
Um,
I was not aware of that. I know that
yeah,
occurred in the 50s. I didn't realize that that was
yeah. Hmm.
still
I
happening.
was I was very fortunate. I was warned about electroshock therapy. One of my other conversion therapy survivors at the time, when we were in it, um, because it wasn't working, because obviously it doesn't work. So I kept trying, it wasn't working. And so I was flustered, and I was talking with one of my friends, one of my brothers who was also trying to change. And he's like, "I know it's hard, but don't do that. Don't do electroshock therapy. It messed him up. It didn't make him more straight, it just made him more messed up." Right. And so I at least was warned about that, but it still happened. And I started conversion therapy in 2003 because that's when they sent me home. And I went to LDS services, Latter day Saint uh, therapy services. And when it first started, it was family therapy because they told me that being gay is a family mental illness. And so my mom was there, my new stepdad was there, and I fit the mold to the T. The absentee father,
Absent
because my
father.
dad, yeah, absent father, yup, check. And then my dad, my stepdad, is an Idaho farmer. So he's like, emotions, what are those? Like, I love you, son. And that was it, like, so, and then my mom, just do what she says and no one gets hurt, you know? So, so overbearing mother, absent father, check, check. This is why he's gay, right? But then the problem is I, conversion therapy was just me getting yelled at all session. My dad maybe saying a word, and then my mom just saying he never listens. And then clearly each week, still gay. So
Mm.
that didn't
And,
help.
and so how long were you actually in conversion therapy before you? Well, I wanted you to talk a little bit about because I've seen on your videos about that the angst between being suicidal and so I don't know if you've ever seen the video by Gabor Mate where he talks about authenticity versus belonging,
Oh, I
and
think
that
you mentioned it in one of your videos, and I was like, this is amazing. And I looked
it
it up a little bit.
it's very profound because basically what he talks about is that there are two primitive needs to be who we are, right? Like your race. I mean, and it's interesting some of the variables that you're talking about and how that showed up within your culture, right? Very different depending on where you are, what your community is about, what your religion is. So there's that authenticity and then the need to be part of the community and that
Right.
when they are against each other, his that's his whole theory as to why people become addicts is they have to
Mm,
give up their authenticity in order to belong, and because of the damage of giving up our authenticity we have to numb ourselves with compulsive behaviors, and that
mm-hmm.
really is his whole, and that's why, so he's not quite a 12 stepper because he really looks at it more from the trauma lens as it
Yes.
relates to the function of the compulsive behavior.
And what I think is fascinating about what you just mentioned is because I think for years I've recognized that the way that I treated my church was as an addiction because it was what soothed me. It's what gave me belonging. It's what gave me community. I was literally addicted to Mormonism. And since Mormonism said you have to be straight, and I mean, Brigham Young, the second prophet of the church, said, if you're not married by 25, you're a menace to society, right? So,
Wow.
like, so there were all these little sayings of all the time that, like, if you don't leave your mission and immediately get married, what are you doing? Like, you're basically a pariah to everyone everywhere. And so it really turned up the dial of, like, not only do I have to become straight now, I have to become straight really soon because I have to get married. I have to have 12 kids. I have to, I have to send them off all on missions. All of my life has to start now. But there's this pesky little problem of me being gay.
Right. And not
And
attractive.
and what you also mentioned is, like, this idea of authenticity, which I find fascinating because every single week they are telling you the prescribed way to be a Mormon male. You're supposed to go up there, be very firm, be very firm, be very, like, as matter of fact as it is, you're the leader of the home. But as soon as you talk about Jesus, you become emotional. You are supposed to cry on cue.